Call the meeting to order.
We're in the clerk's session.
Nichols?
Yes.
Lush?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Fox?
Okay, under the first agenda item, we have approval of the minutes. We have some minutes from September 23rd, 2013 work session. I move approval of those minutes.
Second.
Nichols?
Yes.
Lush?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Next, we have minutes from our regular session on September 23rd, 2013. Any additions or corrections? Not, I move approval of those minutes.
Second.
Nichols?
Yes.
Lush?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Under new business this evening, we have a couple of resolutions. The first being Bill Number 2013-69, a resolution authorizing the city manager to sign a contract with Dodson and Gibbs Incorporated for land clearing of sanitary sewer easements and airport property. And this is up for reading and passage. Bruce?
Yes, Your Honor. This resolution is for brush clearing of right-of-way and safety zone at the airport. And to cover the details, I will turn to Kenzie Russell.
As the council is aware, we've been working up in the northwest part of the city, mapping our manholes, investigating for I&I. We have a sewer line that starts essentially at Westwood and follows Davis Creek up around the north side of the city to a pump station off of Route 15. It's been over 10 years since that line was cleared of brush. We can no longer get equipment in there to investigate or to maintain the line, and this contract on the sanitary sewer portion of it is to go in and clear that line. They'll use a brush cutter, and the chips and all will be left on the ground to provide a pathway, if you will, to rot and such. It's required that they not leave stumps more than 3 inches high so that we'll be able to drive our equipment back along the line. Similarly, the airport had a need for clearing property in the safety zone adjacent to the runway, and this same contract and same process will be used to take down those trees and brush. The material there is a little bit larger, but is still able to be handled. Dodson and Gibbs was our low bid, partly because there's not a good way to quantify the amount of brush or the size of brush. We did this on an hourly rate basis, an hourly with a not to exceed price, and so you'll see on the bids that Dodson and Gibbs had the lowest per hour cost for the equipment and labor, as well as the lowest not to exceed price. So if the hours that they spend are less than necessary, will be charged less. If the hours exceed, then the contractor has to eat the additional cost. He'll be locked into the maximum price here. We had 3 bids, and Dodson and Gibbs is the lowest. We've not worked directly with Dodson and Gibbs on a contract previously that I'm aware of. However, they have been a subcontractor out at the wastewater plant on the Phase 2 work, so we do know the foreman, the superintendent, the equipment, how they operate, and that has given us confidence that they will be able to do the job.
What is the split? How much of this time or money will be spent on the sewer versus the airport?
The sewer is estimated at roughly 39 hours and the airport at roughly 18 hours.
And I guess each of those departments will be charged appropriate when the actual cost comes in.
Correct. The actual cost would be charged to each department.
Question? I move for reading of bill number 2013-69.
Second.
Nichols?
Yes.
Nash?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Bill number 2013-69, a resolution authorizing the city manager to sign a contract with Dotson and Gibbs Incorporated for land clearing of sanitary sewer easements and airport property. Whereas bids made pursuant to the invitation to bid for the land clearing of sanitary sewer easements and airport property were opened on September 18, 2013, and whereas it was determined that the bid of Dotson and Gibbs was an acceptable bid. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Mexico, Missouri as follows. Section 1, the city manager is hereby authorized to execute on behalf of the City of Mexico contract documents with Dotson and Gibbs Incorporated of New London, Missouri. Section 2, this resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after the time of its passage. I move for passage of bill number 2013-69.
Nichols?
Yes.
Nash?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
The next resolution we have this evening is bill number 2013-70, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Mexico Senior Nutrition Center to assist in providing services for senior citizens. This is up for reading and passage. Bruce?
Yes, Your Honor, this is the annual appropriation to the senior center for their new meal nutrition program. To cover the details, I will turn to Roger Haynes.
Good evening, Council. The attached resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Mexico Senior Nutrition Center to assist in providing services to its senior citizens. A narrative of the nutrition program is attached, which was prepared by Sally Crow, who is the director, and who is here this evening if there should be any questions by the council. The 2013-2014 budget allows for the City of Mexico to contribute to the Mexico Senior Nutrition Center the sum of $11,000 to assist in the offsetting operational costs related to providing the programs, activities, and nutritional lunch and services. The city has been providing assistance to the Mexico Nutrition Center since year 2000. Staff does recommend that the City of Mexico and the Mexico Senior Nutrition Center enter into an agreement and that council give reading and passage of the attached resolution. A couple of notes that I thought were quite amazing from the narrative to share with the public is the nutrition center, the senior center, did serve over 54,000 meals during this past year. And to show its viability to the community, they had over 4,500 recorded volunteer hours. It's been a good program for the city, and again, staff recommends approval of the agreement to enter into with the nutrition center, senior center.
Thank you. Sally, would you like to make a couple comments?
Yes.
First, I want to thank you all for always supporting the Nutrition Center. I think it's a wonderful program that really helps a lot of people, particularly the ones that come down to the Senior Center and to our homebound that we serve throughout the county. We do have a lot of volunteers that come down. Some of you do that. So I think it's a wonderful program, and I want to thank you always for supporting us, and I also would like to invite all of you to come down and see our program at work. Thank you.
Questions, comments? Okay.
Make a motion to read bill number 2012-70.
Second.
Nichols?
Yes.
Nash?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Bill number 2012-70, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Mexico Senior Nutrition Center to assist in providing services for senior citizens, whereas the City of Mexico recognizes the many benefits provided by the Mexico Senior Nutrition Center to its senior citizens, and whereas the City of Mexico acknowledges the need for the program, activities, and nutritional luncheons services provided to the senior citizens. And whereas the City of Mexico and the Mexico Senior Nutrition Center desire to enter into an agreement to continue to provide these services. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Mexico, Missouri as follows. Section 1, the City Manager is hereby authorized to execute an agreement with the Mexico Senior Nutrition Center to assist and provide services to senior citizens. An agreement attached hereunto is marked Exhibit A. Section 2, this resolution shall be in full force and effect from after the time of passage. I move for passage of bill number 2012-17.
Second.
Nichols?
Yes.
Lush?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Under old business, this evening, we have an ordinance, Bill Number 2013-66, an ordinance amending Chapter 14, Article 3, Division 1, Section 1459-7, prohibited waste, and Chapter 14, Article 3, Division 4, Section 14-123 of the Mexico City Code relating to the sanitary sewer use charges. This ordinance is up for second reading by title only and passage. Bruce?
Yes, Your Honor, the public hearing and the first reading was held on this ordinance at the September 23rd council meeting. Council, so therefore, unless you have any additional questions, we would not present anything further at this time and would recommend that council proceed with the second reading by title and passage of the ordinance.
I have a few questions, comments. I read this big old book that I got when I first got elected, because this all happened right before I got elected. And there's a lot of interesting things in there, and so I'm kind of concerned here what we're doing, because we're billing for a Phase 3 project, which has some stuff in there, according to the book I read, that DNR at some point is going to want. But we've decided we're not going to do a Phase 3, but we're still going to charge our community based on having a Phase 3. So I don't know how we do this. And then what happens a few years down the road when DNR comes back and says, oh, you know what, you are going to need that stuff. Then what do we do? What it looks like to me, we're going to take that money and we're going to put it to sewer system. That's a noble cause, that is. But that's not what the public voted for in this bond issue. Because this is what it was. It was a vote for a bond issue. And it was going to be paid back through raising sewer rates, correct? That was what it was?
The voters passed a up to $16 million in a bond issue.
Yes.
To cover, at that time, what was estimated needed improvements and repairs, and then also have a cushion so that should other things come up. Of course, we've only issued roughly $11 million in bonds.
But we're still charging based on that full amount we finance. When I looked at this book and they had it all laid out, it's laid out at, it's not?
We're not charging anybody for 16 million, we're charging them for the 11 million that's been issued.
No,
And we
the
only
rate,
did 2 phases.
I know, but the rate that was proposed at the beginning based on the full 3 phases is the same rate increase we're giving today. It didn't go down. You may not have issued the bonds, but you are still raising the rate in the same manner that as you would have, correct?
We're spending the money. We maybe didn't issue the bonds, but we're still spending the money to do the
But what
improvements.
what happens when DNR comes back and says, we need those improvements made? We've already gone to the voters and said, we needed you to pass this bond issue for these improvements. Now we've decided we don't want to do those improvements. And it's a noble cause. It's a noble cause because we have sewer problems. But where do we get the money at later? I think when I said, let's get out of a Phase 3, and maybe I thought when you were talking about, let's see if we can get without a Phase 3, is we could save our community some money, the citizens some money. But now we're like, no, we're not going to do a Phase 3, which is great. Sounds great. But we're still going to charge you just as much as we said we were.
It's not that we're not doing Phase 3. We're doing a number of things in Phase 3. What we have said is that instead of pursuing bonds, we're going to do much more of a pay-as-you-go program. And that's the way we've started to go after some of these things. And some of the issues on Phase 3 doesn't say that we're not going to do them yet. Part of it is fixing some of the things that we're doing so we know how to size some of those additional issues that will be forthcoming. So it's not that we haven't said that we're not going to do any of it. Part of it is designing it the right way not designing it based on the flows that are coming in today that we believe we can fix by the things we're doing today and that we'll do in this next year or so.
But what happens when one of the big ones? What happens then?
If that happens, that's exactly why we have the room left on the bonds to proceed with, or again, we'll look at the pay-as-you-go program based on the cost of those as we determine what the size of that improvement is. Is that, Kenzie, would you like to add to that?
Well, I think that's correct. We have deferred some of the recommended improvements from the facility plan. That has resulted in issuing fewer bonds than what was initially anticipated. The DNR may well come in and look at our system at any time and or change the permit requirements for nutrients or something else that will cause us to have to reevaluate and look again at how we're spending our capital improvement monies and whether or not we'll have to issue additional bonds or whether we have sufficient funds in our capital replacement to be able to manage what they might say. We have accomplished what is necessary to meet our current permit requirements.
I understand what you're saying. If we sold the voters a bag of goods, and I'm told all the time they voted for this, but we're not giving them everything they voted for. But we're still going to charge you. We're going to charge you the full amount that we said from the beginning. And we're going to use that money for whatever. And that's great, and it's a noble cause. It is. I'm not going to argue that we shouldn't be working on that stuff. But that's not what we sold the voters. It's not. It's not what was sold. And so if we come back, so my argument is, do we do the phase 3? If we're going to charge you for the phase 3, and from listening to Kinsey all these times, at some point, DNR is going to come in probably and demand some of these things, correct? At some point in the future. From listening to you talk, at some point they're going to come in.
I believe that there will be changes in our permit at some point down the road. We certainly, through the years, have faced changes and the need for capacity increases and other requirements. So operating a utility system of this sort to meet the needs of the population, to meet the needs of economic development, to meet replacement needs is going to continue to cost funds. We're not going to be able to set a static rate and hold it level because of those kinds of variables as well as inflation, cost of money, and those sorts of things. I don't believe that we are charging more than is necessary to pay our current debt load and operations load.
No, I don't think you're charging a whole lot. I'm just questioning what we're doing with this, because we don't have to do this right now. That's the bottom line. I mean, you were talking about, well, we have obligations to meet with our bondholders, but that chart that we're using is based on that full $16 million.
No, it's not. It's not.
It's a cost of service study.
Yeah.
It's a
When
cost
they
of
did
service.
When they did the rate study and the financial analysis.
But it had
was
the
based
bond
on basically
payments.
$12 million.
Okay, well,
If the
it's still
voters
based on
approved
more.
Right, and we did not make this additional borrowing this year, as Bruce was discussing, because we felt like we could take those dollars with the rate adjustment and pay things by cash and reduce how much we're getting in the system as far as I&I. And if you reduce with that cash, I&I going to the plant, it will ultimately reduce what you have to do at the plant as far as improvements. So we're taking care of those I&I issues over a shorter period of time rather than borrowing money for 30 years to do an improvement at the plant that may not have been necessary.
And I agree. That's a noble cause. I agree with you. But at the end of the day, that's not what we sold. Correct? I mean, that's not what the bond issue was for.
Yes, it was. I mean, it was for doing, a number of the things we're doing is correcting the system, which was phase 3 work. And that's what we're doing.
Well, there were certain things in there in Phase 3 that were said we
There
were
are
going to
some of
do.
the things that's in phase
That are
two
pretty
we haven't
expensive.
completed yet.
Yeah.
Because, again, it's about sizing those to make sure they're the right thing when we do proceed with those. So it's not like we haven't said that we aren't going to do them. It's doing them at the right time, at the right size.
I'm not against a rate increase. I just think that the amount we're asking for in the community right now, it's a lot, and we don't have to ask for it. We don't have to ask for this amount right now to meet our bond obligations. It's just we don't have to. And I think it would be a great thing to show the community that we understand that there's a lot of people in our community that are suffering. I know that's probably not going to buy me any sympathy here, but I found one of my bills just the other day. I mean, these bills have gone up tremendously. I found a bill from 4 years ago, and it's like doubled. And they say, well, it's 20% and then 30%. Well, they people don't see that, and the fact that 30% is on top of the 20%, on top of the 10%. So they see these numbers. I mean, this 10% right now is more like when you voted for this thing, it's like 40% versus what we were paying at the very beginning. But it's 10% now because we've already done all these rate increases. So, you can take it for what you will. I just wish we could do something lower or something to help the community, especially with the just coming out that Social Security recipients are going to get a 1.5% increase. They're on fixed income. The money's got to come from somewhere, and we've done some good things for our city, but let's face it. I mean, we're stagnant. Our sales tax revenue is flat. Property taxes are flat. Maybe up a little, but people need a break. Like I said, I know it probably won't go very far, but that's my opinion right now. So,
Council, I would disagree from the point of view of saying if you don't do this, that you will not do the work that you've programmed in the budget, which is solving the inflow infiltration issues that we've had people standing before this council with great concerns when it backs up into their basements. We won't be addressing those issues if we don't do this. So we are compounding and prolonging the problem if we don't proceed with some of these issues.
I would say this, though, to that argument. Right now, we have a lot of money that's sitting there that we don't have budgeted that we could use for this stuff. We have the money that was from Mid-America Brick. That money was not budgeted.
You are 100% wrong. There's a cost of service study done by Roger. It details exactly what we're going to spend each year. You cannot take taxpayer funds and put them in a sewer department. That is mixing funds. That's illegal. You cannot do that. So what you just said was 100% wrong.
You can't take general revenue funds and fix sewer?
No, you cannot. It's a state law.
Is that state law?
You cannot take funds from taxpayer-funded items that's used for the city and put them over to a utility.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen cities do it, but it's wrong, and it gets them in trouble every time they do it. I know what I'm talking about.
I don't doubt you would. I'd like to see it, though. But like I said, it is what it is.
Should have moved the hammer over here.
Pardon?
Should have moved the hammer over here.
You should have. I move for second reading by title only of Bill number 2013-66.
Second.
Nichols?
Yes.
Flash?
Yes.
Williams?
No.
Miller?
Yes. Bill
Under-
number 2013-66, an ordinance amending Chapter 14, Article 3, Division 1, Section 14-59, subsection 7, prohibited waste in Chapter 14, Article 3, Division 4, Section 14-123 of the Mexico City Code relating to the sanitary sewer use charges. I move for passage of Bill number 2013-66.
Second.
Nichols?
Yes.
Flash?
Yes.
Williams?
No.
Miller?
Yes.
Next, under other business, we have a staff report, Mexico Animal Shelter acoustics. Bruce?
Your Honor, on this one, we have looked at the animal shelter and as a safety audit, and looked at the noise levels, and we need to look at limiting the noise that we can do out there as well for an employee issue, but as well as being able to service the public from talking, because of the noise. And so, to cover the details, I'm going to turn to Rita Jackson on the bids we received and what we're going to do at our planned project at the animal shelter.
The 2013-2014 budget allows $22,300 for the acoustics at the Mexico Animal Shelter. A safety audit was conducted at the shelter in August 2012, and the results concluded a sound level range of 100 to 105 decibels from barking dogs. The City of Mexico contracted with Simon Associates of Columbia, Missouri, to provide plans and specifications for the noise abatement at the shelter. An advertisement for bids was placed in the Mexico Ledger on March 2013 and mailed to 16 local and surrounding area contractors. Bids were received on March 26. 4 bids were received, with low bid being RCI Concrete Inc., Mexico, for the amount of $20,225. The project consists of 3 phases, which includes insulation of the walls between the kennel and the office area, installation of Tectum acoustic panels on the ceiling in the kennel area, and the replacement of hollow core doors, and insulated doors, weather stripping, and thresholds. This project is intended to limit the noise as much as possible from mitigating from the kennel area to the office and common areas, and reduce the potential for the hearing loss that may occur due to the high sound level found at the shelter. The 2012-2013 budget provided no funding for the project, and the Audrain Humane Society was willing to contribute only $6,000 toward the project cost. Therefore, staff contacted the low bidder, RCI Concrete Inc., and he agreed to honor his bid until this fiscal year and would only make changes if the cost of the materials were changed. Material cost increased $1,238, making the total project cost $21,493, and the Audrain Humane Society is still going to contribute the $6,000 toward the project. The project is a necessary project. If you actually call to the shelter at times, it's very difficult to, if the staff is talking on the phone and the animals are barking, they have to go outside sometimes to hear their conversations, and being out early in the morning in different areas, you can actually hear the animals barking. We are asking for the $21,493 total amount because the city is responsible for contracting with the contractor, and the Humane Society will contribute their $6,000 upon completion and final inspection. Staff recommends that council approve the low bid of RCI Concrete Inc. of Mexico in the amount of $21,493 for noise abatement at the animal shelter.
So they're going to insulate the wall, it'd be the west wall and the north wall around the office building.
In the kennel areas, insulate those walls.
So you insulate roughly 40 feet of wall, something like that? 20, give a rough estimate.
As an estimate, I didn't actually bring the plans with me.
There was a bunch of drop ceiling and different things involved in that as well. I've seen the bid. Actually, there was more than what she's saying involved in that bid.
I was
The
gonna
way
say-
they're doing it is rather asinine, but there was more than that involved.
I was going to say, just looking at what they're doing, that sounds outrageously high.
Well, actually, the acoustic ceiling tiles, the Tectum, they're actually putting those on the ceiling, and you're providing insulation between the kennels and the animal and the dog areas. When we actually started this project, staff went to the shelter, and at first we were only going to install doors. And we actually hired Simon Associates, which is an architect, which actually went out and evaluated the project, and this plans and specifications were done through them to actually alleviate some of the noise abatement. And it's actually a 3-phase project. Our building inspector was going to stay tonight, but he actually had to go home. But it's more to the project than it looks like here on paper.
So we're going to have a guy come in tonight to explain all this?
Building inspector.
Our building inspector.
So-
I'm sorry, yes, actually, this project also, it's a prevailing wage project, which basically is going to actually almost double your cost.
I'm going to be bold, and I'm going to say, like I'm not always bold, right? Steve actually had, I mean, it seemed like he had a round of questions he wanted answered. Can we put this off till next time?
Sure.
So that he can?
Yep.
Does anybody have any objections to that? Because I have no idea where he was going with it, so or else, you know, like, is that okay with you? I mean,
It's fine.
to put it off for two?
Yes.
Okay. I just didn't know if it was pressing that had to happen.
Not to say it's pressing, but I would say that I would take the time and actually go to the animal shelter and listen to.
Oh,
the
it's
staff is
horrible.
actually- And even in the morning times, if you go by, you can hear the animals and all. It's really nice.
I agree. It is horrible.
Okay, moving on to other business. Do we need to have some kind of a motion to table that, or?
I don't think you ever considered it. There's never a motion made.
Okay, you're right. Okay. Under our other business, we have a staff report, that we're ready to play the bills.
Move we play the claims.
Second.
McGurk, Lush,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Next, we have council comments. Councilman Williams.
Haven't been back since Walk Back in Time. Great event. Always good to see all the people in. It's kind of like the MMA. It's interesting because they have people where I work. You get people come in. I have people from other countries that come in, you know, occasionally, and they're like, you know, they talk to me about Peru or Brazil or, you know, but the same with Walk Back in Time. I get people from Kentucky and Illinois or Wyoming, and you know, it's and they're like, oh yeah, you know, so it's always a great event, and it does draw a lot of people from that town as well. I have two questions. One is, I had some complaints on where Lakeview comes into Teal Lake, that brush there, you can't see the gravel road very well on that yield sign.
Lakeview and Teal, they're
They
Or
don't cross.
is that, maybe I have the wrong roads?
It comes in Fairgrounds.
Fairgrounds, okay. Where the gravel road flips in and you have the yield right there? Then Teal Lake, okay. Yeah.
Teal Lake's fair, okay.
Because they said a couple people have complained in the past couple, I don't know if the brush has grown out too far or what's going on there, but they said because it's a yield and they can't see them until, they have no stop sign on the gravel, I guess. I didn't know that, and they just fly in through the gravel, and then you got to kind of get out there almost into the road before. And so maybe that's something we need to look at there. And then second, I had Lakeview and Fairground, so a wreck down there. There's been several wrecks, is that correct? I don't know. That's your department. Well, somebody was saying they've had a bunch of wrecks, so nothing major, but fender benders out there. So, okay.
Had a fatality there about 10, 12 years ago. No serious ones that I know of since then.
That's all I got.
Councilman Miller.
Yeah, and probably most everybody knows about it now, but I wanted to bring it up and mention it tonight. Safeco Insurance Company has sponsored a Community Hero Contest wherein 16 individuals nationwide were selected for recognition. And Mexico resident and a local volunteer hero, Ron Sterrett, was selected as one of the 16, which I think is a great honor. By that selection, the local YMCA received an award of $5,000 from Safeco. And if Mr. Sterrett is selected from the 16 finalists as one of the top 3, the Y will receive another award of from $5,000 to $10,000. So I think it's great. It's a win-win situation. It's great recognition for Mexico, great for the Y, but it's also great for Ron Sterrett because he really deserves the recognition and the praise. Voting is done online through Facebook or the Safeco insurance website until November 4th, so everybody can go there and vote. I think you can vote once a day, something like that. For those of you that maybe don't know him, Mr. Sterrett is a World War II veteran, and he volunteers consistently at the YMCA and serves on numerous boards and committees in our community, and he's well deserving of the award. So I'd like to offer my congratulations to Mr. Sterrett, to the YMCA, and to the Gallagher Insurance Agency who nominated him.
Do you have a www number?
www.safeco.com. At the risk of sounding like I'm doing a commercial on that. That's all I have, Mayor.
Bruce?
Yes, Your Honor. October 26th will be Prescription Take-Back Day. That's being sponsored by Public Safety. I think that's 10 to noon that day.
10 to 2.
10 to 2, and that will be at the fire station. Yeah. Also, November 11th, Veterans Day, will be on Monday, which will be on the same Monday as our first council meeting of November. So, council, unless you have any other thoughts, I would assume we'll just put a motion on the next meeting to move that meeting from that Monday night to Tuesday night of that week. To move it from the Veterans Day holiday to Tuesday the 12th. Also, I just returned back here just about a half hour or so ago. No, it's been longer than that now, but in the meantime, but back from Moberly, which was the Mexico High School Girls Sectional Golf tournament today up there, and they did come in third, so they did miss going to state by because they only take the top 2 teams. We do have 3 girls that are moving on, and so congratulations to those girls, and it was a good day for the girls. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just make a comment about the Cole Street parking lot. I think that looks nice. It's a good job there by the city, and certainly improvement to the downtown. Next, we have public comments. I think we have someone who'd like to make a comment. Would you come up to the microphone, give your name and address, please?
Thank you. My name is Diana Miller. I live at 407 Mars, and I want to talk about the article that was in the Ledger on Friday, the 11th, about the chicken ordinance. I'm one of the offenders. I called the animal control and asked if I could have chickens. Whoever I talked to said yes. My grandson and I went to Orscheln's to Chick Days, got 2 red Rhode Island Reds and a coop, and had them for a year and a half until August of this year, when I was told, oops, you can't have those. Well, I don't know. There's not very many African-American farmers, okay? My grandson doesn't get to raise chickens. So he had a blast raising his chickens. He misses his chickens. He loved to go get the eggs. And I really think that we need to look at the ordinance. Other communities are doing it. It is a good project. He learned a lot. He had to read a lot of books to do this. I have a fenced-in backyard. They never ran loose. I have a chicken run. They are empty. I had it set up very nice. Even the animal control officer that came and got my chickens, God bless her soul, took them to a nice farm and told me on Saturday that they were still in good shape, because I went to check, and it is noisy over there, let me tell you guys. But I would just like y'all to consider the ordinance, because urban chickens are becoming very popular, and I would like for my grandson to be able to continue his project. Thank you.
Excuse me, where were they located on your property, or where did you have them?
In my backyard, right outside my deck.
Sure you did. And they were in a cage?
Yes, you want to see the picture?
Yes, please.
I have a chicken coop and a chicken run. Bought at Arshland's here in town, and the books that we read about raising chickens, we also got from Arshland's. All the supplies, everything we got from Arshland's here in town. And like I said, I only have the one grandchild, and I try to give him every opportunity that he can have. And saw the 4-H in the paper also, and saw, the Caucasian kids had animals. The Rugrats had to do photography. You know, if given the opportunity, those Rugrat 4-H kids could have came to my house and watched us raise those day-old chicks to hens that were laying eggs every day before they were, you know, I was asked to turn them in. But yes, I would have really appreciated if you guys would consider that. I know that some people were letting them run free. I talked to Animal Control on Saturday. She said that a lot of people were just letting them no chicken coop, no nothing. I mean, we kept our coop clean. I went and got a burn barrel at Thompson to dump their waste in so we could compost it. You know, we did everything right, and the little boy lost his chicken. He only had 2, but still, he lost his chickens. And he didn't understand why Columbia could have them. They live in an apartment in Columbia, but we were told we can have them, and then they were taken away. And so I just would like you guys to consider, please consider, and look at some of the other ordinance by some of the other cities, Springfield, St. Louis, Kansas City, Joplin. Those areas do have ordinances that are specific to urban chickens only. If you could take the time to do that, please.
Okay, thank you. Other comments? Yes.
I'm Linda Reed, 3770 Linwood. And first off, I can't say all this in 3 minutes, but what happened to the audience being able to comment before you passed an ordinance or a resolution? When I was on the council for 6 years, we always asked for audience comments. And we can't talk now. You just go ahead, you read it, and pass it.
I don't know that.
Well, I know you weren't here.
Is there something specific that you're
You weren't
referring to,
here.
Linda?
It was Dan and Steve and, well,
I wasn't here either, but...
yeah, I don't know when that happened.
But which, you're talking about every ordinance, or every...
Yes, uh-huh.
Well, I know...
Because when we would read through the ordinances, it'd say, are there any comments from, or council comments, are there any comments from the audience?
Yeah, I usually go and try to find the people in the audience prior to us passing anything and see if they want to comment on something.
Okay, but
So
you
we
didn't
have
tonight.
done it. We have done it. If there's been an ordinance here, and I know there's people here who want to comment on it.
And
But-
I thought that Chris made a very good point on the sewer situation, the increase,
What point was that?
about the increase.
Sure,
That the
nobody
members
nobody
of the
likes.
public who put you on office is going to have to withstand.
Yeah, nobody likes the increase. I don't like it.
Well, I
But
think
the
he made a
cost
good point of what it was
But the
about.
cost of the service study says, which one of those costs are you going to knock out?
Well, you've already passed it, so, you know, I just wanted to know what happened to that portion on the council meeting. Why the audience members can't speak.
Well,
Typically, they do that during public hearings.
No? Not
God,
before,
yes.
not when I was on it.
we did have a public hearing on this.
Mhm. But also you had it after each ordinance and resolution, before it was passed, if there were any comments from the audience.
They do that in Columbia. as well.
Anyways.
I know what you're talking about.
I've only
They
got
do
a
it
few
there.
minutes, so
Right.
I had an issue with the parks, and since Chad is here. Something that really bothers me is when I take my dog to the Green Estate every morning and walk her. Sometimes I go to Lakeview. But what really bothered me is when I was walking down the short loop, heading north, there's a big oak tree, and it is marked to be cut down. Why?
Well,
We talked.
we've already had a discussion about this.
Well, I wasn't here.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
A little bit lengthy explanation, if you would bear with me. Pin oaks are a relatively short-lived species. It's not like a white oak or a bur oak that's going to live for 400 years, 350 years. Pin oaks generally start to break down after about 75 to 85 years. They're much more mechanically weak than other oak species, pin oaks and shingle oaks in particular. That tree about 4 years ago started showing some lesions on the bark. And when I say lesion, you're going to notice there's some dark, wet-looking circles in various places along the trunk. These lesions oftentimes precede trees beginning to decline rapidly with oak wilt. So we've been watching that. That tree's been on the watch list for several years. The crown is starting to thin markedly. Since it's a weaker mechanical species and it's right on the trail, it's been on our watch list because we've been concerned about it. But I mean, we're trying to keep it as long as we can. This year, we started to see some fruiting bodies along the lower end of the trunk that would be usually indicative of a fusiform root rot, which means the roots are rotting under the ground. If it wasn't right on the trail, we probably wouldn't mark it. But considering where it is on the trail, I mean, it's just got all of the indications that it's a clear and present danger to the public. If you're out there, winds start blowing before a thunderstorm, you know, that kind of thing. It's in a position where it could lose large limbs without warning. The whole tree could come over without warning. So from that perspective, as much as I hated to, and we spent probably 45 minutes kicking the can around this tree, and we have every year for the last 3 years, I just decided that the risk is getting overwhelming because of what it is.
Is the tree hollow inside?
More than likely, it probably is.
But you don't know for sure.
I won't know until we, you know.
I just think it's a shame. You have this beautiful oak tree
I
that's
agree.
towers above those other trees with the balls, the sweet gums.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's a beautiful tree.
And to take that beautiful tree out, it's
You
just.
know, if, like I said, if it wasn't sitting right on the trail, and if it was on the west side of the trail, with prevailing winds are gonna topple it onto the trail, or any winds that come out are gonna fall onto the trail, you know, that's kind of the position we're in. We're trying to guess ahead of time what's gonna happen down the road based on, you know, what we see, you know, clinically, you know, on that tree. And it's hard to hold, especially when you've got something that size, because we can't replace it overnight.
No, you can't replace it.
And we
You
know
can't
that.
replace it in 80 years. It's just a shame that you're gonna cut down that nice, beautiful tree. It's an
You know,
oak tree.
If the public and the council want me to leave it, you know, we can leave that tree, but I'm gonna tell you right here and now, to me, it's a clear and present danger. If it falls on somebody, we're gonna be on the hook, all of us taxpayers. So, I mean, it's just a choice we gotta make.
So I guess you all want the tree cut down.
In my professional opinion, it's a danger, and I certainly wouldn't want to make
It's just
it
that,
otherwise.
you know, I've been doing this for years, walking on these trails, and I see these X's all the time on these trees, and it just makes me sick. Some of them are alive, and you're cutting them down. And like on down and around the trail, there's X's on trees that have lost leaves. Well, it's been a drought year, and a lot of them have lost leaves already. Same thing in Lakeview Park.
You know, if it shows a disease vector that we think is a danger to the other trees of that same species in that area, sometimes we'll make that decision, go ahead and take it out to try to protect the rest of the trees.
Okay.
You know,
I think I will cry when that tree comes down, because it's really,
you know, if you'd like to come do a little going away.
The memorial
something,
for
we
it?
would do that. Seriously, we would do that.
I don't think it's funny, though. I don't want
I
the
don't
tree to
either.
come
I
down.
mean, we would do that.
You're not alone in the tree. I'd already talked to him.
Yeah, it is, you know, I mean.
There's other people that have been
You know, I've been
concerned
called a
about the tree.
hugger more times than I've been called a tree killer in my life. And, you
I think
know,
I call you the tree chopper.
The reality is, you know, sometimes somebody has to make a hard choice.
Does it show any evidence of the borer beetle?
No, not this one. It doesn't have the board. But it definitely has some fusiform root rot going on, and definitely has some vascular fungal infection in it. It's been going downhill for about 4 years, so, if it wasn't right on a trail when people are walking by, we probably wouldn't find it this year. I would have gone another year before we did.
Okay, I know my time has passed, but another issue with trees and you,
Okay.
back in June, down on the south end of the trail. Okay, by the little
At Green
runoff from the highway. You know, it swells up with water and it runs into the little lake.
Oh.
You know where I'm talking, on the
Over by
south
Tail
end.
Lake, on the south?
Right, on the south end.
Okay.
Okay, there were 2 oak trees that came down in June. One of them went that way, one of them went
Oh,
this way.
one of them's
They're
still
still on the
laying on the
ground.
ground, yeah.
What's the deal with that? Why aren't they
We just haven't got it cleaned up yet. We'll get it cleaned up when we clean up all the rest of the trees.
since June? That's 4 months.
I know.
And you want a beautiful park. You're putting these expensive picnic tables out there, but we can't clean up the trees to make the park beautiful. And the limbs, I mean, limbs will blow down and they will sit there for weeks before anyone gets them.
You're correct. If I had more staff, I'd have it cleaned up quicker, but, you know.
Well, you just got a big park tax increase, 0.5%, and you got an employee to help you, you got a new truck. So why can't we keep the parks nice?
You know, we're trying hard to do. That's all I can say. Every day we make decisions as to what gets done, what doesn't get done, and we're trying hard to.
And the same as mowing the grass.
And we fall behind on a consistent.
You don't get the grass mowed either. You can go 5 weeks in the spring without being mowed.
I will come to your defense to a point. This is where it falls into the public realm of the public should be more involved, because I said, and Chad said, that if they passed this park tax, they weren't getting nothing more. But the public didn't pay attention, because I hear it all the time at work. Well, you got a park tax. I hear you. I hear people, but it wasn't a secret that this was not going to give him $1 million to go do extra stuff. People just didn't pay attention. That's why I wish more people would get involved in
But
the
it
community.
gave them money to pour concrete pads and money to put these expensive picnic tables out. But what do they got? They're concrete with marble tops or something?
They're cut out of stone. They set up a lot.
I know those are very expensive.
We've been trying to get those put in for about 3 years.
But we can't clean up the trees and the limbs. Okay, I'm sorry.
Are there other comments from the public? If not, excuse me. Sir, I didn't see you.
My name's Donnie Kofer. I live at 600 North Washington, and I want to address the water problem on Washington Street. All the gravel from the west side of the street washes over to the east side of the street. There's gullies going down through there that range from 6 inches deep to a foot deep. I've had neighbors up the street who have actually had to pour their own concrete to where they can get through it without dragging the valance on the front of their vehicles. And I just want to know, really, what can we do? What can I do? What can we do? I mean, I'm not up here harping. I'm not trying to complain.
Where at, Don?
600 North Washington. It's between Allison and Maple Street.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it really, or not Maple Street. What's the next street to the north?
Robinson.
Anyway, it's a problem. I mean, it really is. And I've got the whole neighborhood on my side. I didn't want to bring them all up here and do a bunch of harping. You know, I really didn't.
Well, it's
I
not
wanted
just
to come
that.
up here and ask nicely what we can do about it, you know. I don't want to come up here, I don't want to be that guy, you know. I don't want a few neighbors up the street who are a little more verbal than I am. I didn't want them coming up here causing trouble, you know. I'd just really like to know what we could do. I mean, I've had Doug Ballard over there looking at it. I've had the city engineers over there looking at it. I'd just like to know if there's anything that we could possibly do. I don't want to bust the city, you know, I don't want to break the city, but I feel like my house has been paying taxes since 1941, and I would really like something done. I would like it curbed and paved. Last time they raised the street right in front of my house, they raised it 7 inches, which is 4 inches higher than the entrance to my basement. My house has been the same height since 1941. They've raised the streets. They've made a lot of improvements, don't get me wrong, but they replaced a sewer drain right out in front of my house, or not sewer drain, excuse me, the waste
Storm drain?
Stormwater.
Thank you. They replaced that, and now it's 1.5 inches lower than the entrance to my basement. They raised it up 2 inches when they replaced that drain. And I know I can't sue a city entity. I don't want to be the one that does. But no one's protected me and mine. My house has been the same height since 1941. I don't see any reason why I should raise my house or change the entrance to my basement because the city has chosen to raise the street.
Your street's not the only street down through there either that has those. I mean, I know your
Mine's
problem.
the one I'm worried
Yeah,
about.
I know you're. But
You know?
I'm saying
I'm
that
at
whole.
the bottom of the hill. I'm on the corner
Yeah.
of Allison and Washington.
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
about as low in the city of Mexico as you can get. My house was the first house in Coons subdivision in 1941, and I think probably now I have as much danger as they did back then with that creek coming out.
Have we looked at
And
this?
as far as the chickens, people have rabbits all over town. They do.
Have we looked
Sorry.
at 600 North Washington?
We've looked at North Washington and a portion of North Jefferson have similar issues. I don't know the development history of the streets, if there was curb and gutter and it's been filled up over time with asphalt, or if there was never any curb and gutter, and what we now have is...
15 years ago, there was a ditch there
Okay.
on both sides, yes.
Storm ditches that were allowed to be piped in or filled in is part of what has contributed to the problem now. It's essentially a gravel shoulder behind the edge of the street, and that gravel washes out, short of a curb and gutter and rebuilding the storm piping system down through there, or taking everything out and reverting back to ditches, paving the shoulder instead of using gravel or something. Any of the solutions are going to be capital cost solutions.
Absolutely, I agree with that. I also agree that every house in that neighborhood has paid taxes between the 1940s and the 1960s, and this should have been remedied a long time ago. If they would have left it alone and left the ditches there, it would have been fine. Now, you have a lot of people parking alongside the road. Some of them don't even have driveways anymore. What are they going to do? You know, and like I say, I'm here on the behalf of my neighborhood. I've already taken pictures and done all that, but I didn't want to come up here like that. I didn't. I wanted to come up here and try and be civil and not be the jerk on North Washington, basically. You know, I really did. So, I mean, if you all can give me any kind of hope.
What do you think needs to be done now?
I think it should be curbed. I really do. I mean, I poured a curb alongside my sidewalk, and right now, I guarantee you, if I get 1/4 inch of rain, there's going to be water running down my sidewalk, and it comes from 3 houses up north and runs down the sidewalk, and it's coming from across the road. I mean, you can look at the gravel out there, and it's, you know, it's 6-7 feet out in the road where it just washed across from the east side to the west side. And that's just ridiculous. I mean, I've had people over there looking at it. I've had the city engineers over there because, believe me, I am the squeaky wheel. You know, I will be hurt. I know you don't. Yeah, you know. And it's just gotten really bad. You know, what's going to happen whenever in the middle of the wintertime we get a good thaw? It runs down my sidewalk, the neighbor's sidewalk, the next neighbor up, up the hill sidewalk, runs over there, the mailman trips on the ice, busts his leg, I'm liable for your water. And I should just quit because I'm getting worked up and I don't want to be that guy. Yeah. You know, and I'd just like for it to be addressed. There's ways around this. It doesn't have to be a $6 million project. You know, it really doesn't. Matter of fact, if you go 3 blocks north, it is curbed. You know, and I have noticed that there's been a lot of sidewalks poured and curbs put in other neighborhoods. And there's no reason that it shouldn't be in my neighborhood as well. You know, and like I say, I don't want to be ugly. I don't want to be the guy that comes up here and harps and complains. And I'm just asking what I can do. What I can do to help you all. You know.
I don't think we know the answer tonight, but I'd like for you to, for Kenzie and crew to look at that and see what, come back with to us and give us an
I would just
assessment.
really appreciate anything you could do. You know.
We'll look into
There
it.
are rabbits everywhere in Mexico.
Told me it was illegal.
Yeah.
I got an empty hutch at home, I was good
I don't
looking.
think they're rats. My mom's got 2 in her backyard and they haven't bothered anybody. I'm not scared. It's all right.
Other comments?
Thank you all.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Nichols? Flash?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.